The film opens with an injured coroner crawling across the floor, after a brutal attack by Art the Clown. While Art nonchalantly looks himself in the mirror and writes his name in his own blood. He then reaches for a reflex hammer to finish him off. He smashes his skull and tears it open to take out his internal organs, including his brain and eyes, just because he can. Afterwards, he heads to a laundromat in his bloody glory, unbeknownst to the sleeping employee. Art undresses and tosses his costume inside the washing machine. The clown reads the newspaper to pass time, right when he comes across a little girl with clown makeup. She curiously walks up to Art and starts playing with him. When the employee wakes up, he sees Art playing with thin air, making a sensation. A while after, we see Art leaving the laundromat, after having killed the employee by him. We then skip to a year later, to a girl named Sienna Shaw in her candle-decorated bedroom. She's focused on finishing her homemade warrior Halloween costume, which includes a pair of wings and a sword. The costume means a great deal to her, as it was designed by her late father, who recently passed away from a brain tumor. During dinner with her family, Sienna's mom, Barbara, asks her brother, Jonathan, what he's dressing up as for Halloween. Jonathan says he'd like to dress up as the infamous clown serial killer from. He begins entertaining everyone there by handing out candies, but Sienna appears uncomfortable from the get-go. When it's Sienna's turn, Art hands her a gift of a soup with a very disgusting beating heart and worms inside. The box then starts filling up with blood, while Art finally drops the charade by taking out a submachine gun and killing everyone. Despite this, Sienna survives and tries to run away. The clown burns the remaining guests and the guitarist with a flamethrower. After Art torches the place with a flamethrower, he walks up to Sienna to finish her off, so she rushes out of the room to call her mother. Barbara then comes in with a fire extinguisher. The mother is understandably upset and starts scolding her for keeping her candles lit when she went to bed. Sienna, however, swears she already put the candles out. After her mother leaves, she walks up to what's left of her wings and finds that the sword her father gave her is left unscathed. Meanwhile, on the other side of the story, Art the Clown and the little clown girl are watching a talk show interviewing Vicky, the sole survivor from the first movie whose face is now heavily disfigured. After Vicky claims that she watched Art kill himself, the clown gets up and smashes the TV. The next day at school, Sienna's brother Jonathan is in class when he raises his hand to go to the restroom. On his way to the bathroom, he instead stumbles upon Art the Clown and the little girl, toying with a disemboweled dead possum. Across a teacher, who decides to check out the scene, only to find the dead possum there. While this is going on, Sienna and her high school friends are engrossed in a conversation about how Art the Clown's survivor, Vicky, named the talk show host with her bare hands right after the live interview. Back to Jonathan, Barbara, the mom, gets visibly upset to learn that he's gotten suspended from school because the teacher thinks it was Jonathan who brought the dead possum. After school, Sienna and her friend Allie head to a costume shop to purchase a new pair of wings. While Sienna is busy browsing, he begins showing his sister the pages, one of which eerily contains a sketch of Art the Clown and other murder victims from the previous year. At the very last page, he shows her a sketch featuring Sienna in the warrior costume, holding a beast's head in her hand. Jonathan insists these old drawings must be symbolic, as their dad gave Sienna a warrior sword for a reason. But it is too soon for her to believe him. They get interrupted by Barbara the mom, who informs Sienna that Jonathan has been suspended for bringing a dead possum to school. Sienna shows her disappointment in her brother at home this Halloween night, because he fears something bad might happen, but Sienna refuses to listen. On the other side of town, Art pays a visit to Allie's house, and she happily greets him, as she recognizes him as the guy she met at the costume shop. Assuming he's old enough for trick-or-treating, she tells him she doesn't have anything to give before shutting the door. But he starts banging on it, upsetting Allie. She reopens the door and throws some candy into his bag, and immediately notices the bloody tools in it. Scared, she retreats inside and watches as Art goes away. A few hours later, Allie is putting on makeup to get ready for Halloween until she gets interrupted by the sound of glass breaking. She goes downstairs to find her glass door broken, and to her surprise, she sees Art casually hanging in the kitchen. This terrifies her, so she begins to run while Art chases her. Unfortunately, the psycho manages to catch her and cuts her face with a knife before brutally skinning and mutilating her body with different sets of knives and scissors. Afterwards, he pours bleach and salt over her exposed flesh before ripping the skin off the poor girl's face. Downstairs, Allie's mom comes home from work and panics when she finds the broken door. Mother, who immediately starts ranting about how Jonathan's covered the car in shaving cream, toilet paper, and eggs. After the call ends, the mother begins cleaning up the car, during which she discovers Art sitting inside. He shoots her face off with a shotgun, instantly killing her. At the party, Sienna discovers the little clown girl in the crowd, which freaks her out and sends her spiraling in a panic attack. But oddly enough, she seems to be the only one at the party who's able to see the little girl. Back home, Jonathan is welcomed with a sight of her dead mother seated at the dining table. Worried for her brother's safety, Sienna asks Jeff to drop her off at said place, and she heads out despite Brooke's warnings. Jeff suggests that they probably should go help Sienna look for her brother, but Brooke objects, as she thinks Sienna's brother has been acting weird ever since his dad died. She also adds that the dad suffered from a brain tumor which made him schizophrenic. Sienna begins to explore the place and gets a text from Jonathan saying that he's at the Terrifier, the carnival's haunted house. Inside the Terrifier, Jonathan wakes up to the view of the clown girl whose entire face has now been mutilated. Pun intended, this terrifies him, so he runs for his life. Meanwhile, Jeff heads outside to take a piss when Art suddenly shows up and stabs him. He then breaks the car's window and drags Brooke out, but she fights back and scrambles away. She enters the haunted house to hide while calling Sienna for help. As she continues running, she trips and falls into the bathroom, where Art manages to find and corner her. He then beats her with a spiked bat and finishes her off. Not long after, Sienna walks into the room and finds Brooke's dead body, with Art standing nearby. As the two lock eyes, Sienna sees Jonathan behind Art and yells for him to run while grabbing a piece of wood and hitting him. Eventually drowns to death. Back on the surface, Art walks up to Jonathan and begins eating his flesh, which wakes him up. As he struggles to get away, he screams for Sienna's help, and conveniently, the sword which is lying nearby starts glowing somehow, resurrecting Sienna and magically healing her wounds. She exits the portal with ease and picks up the sword, using it to slay Art the clown. To finish him off, she uses it to decapitate him. Afterwards, she runs to her brother and the siblings wrap each other in a relieved embrace. Meanwhile, the little clown girl suddenly walks in the room to pick up Art's decapitated head and carries it away. In the movie's credit scene, we see Vicky, the sole survivor of the first movie, inside a mental hospital. Blood rushes between her legs, and she uses it to vandalize the wall. The words Vicky plus Art can be seen. As it turns out, she is in labor and demoniac while cradling Art's head.